You have an opportunity cost every time you switch an activity. How long do you think it is?
20%.
For about 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Latest research says 30. So basically you're not getting anything done at all. So I want to teach you how to chunk your days into blocks that can help you. We're not talking about productivity here, even though the title of it is Productivity Pack. That was a marketing error. We're talking about energy management, how to chunk your day so that you can get the most bang for your buck from a bandwidth standpoint. If you look at Street Matter, by the way, everyone say hi to Taylor Street Matter.
Hi.
Taylor's over our acquisitions for WealthCap. And if you look at Taylor Street Matter's Chrome window, there's at least 1,000 tabs open. Like so many tabs open, it's like, you know when a computer is spinning their fans, like that's Taylor Street Matter's computer. What this does though is it actually, you gotta be careful because your bandwidth is a filter. And if you have too much stuff clogging up that filter, literally if you take Street Matter at the end of a day, 3:30 in the afternoon, and you say, what's 7 plus 7? It will take him longer to answer that at 3 p.m. than it will at 9 in the morning. Why? Filter. The filter's all clogged up. Willpower is a muscle, bandwidth is a filter, and you have to protect yourself so that you don't end the day. How many of you have ended the day and you're like, I don't know what I did today? 1,000 times for me. So I'm not going to teach on Productivity Pack, but I want to teach you specifically, Street Matter, how to chunk your days into, really, we're going to talk about the month, the week, and the day. Number one is outcome. You should have 2 to 3 outcomes per month that are written down. What happens when you try to memorize the things that you should be writing down? Bandwidth. If you have to use more fuel, you're going to have to refuel more often. True or false?
True.
So, I mean, the whole point of these systems is not because you have to write them down or you're going to forget them. No, you're not stupid. That's not what I'm saying. It's that if you compare your ability to remember things and my ability to get things done, I'll lap you because I don't have to remember anything. It's all written down. My bandwidth is completely free. 2 to 3 outcomes for the month. Categories. Outcomes, categories, and activities. Categories are the chunks of work that are going to support you achieving the what? Outcome. This is a waterfall. Outcomes at the top, categories underneath that, activities underneath that. Okay? Depending on how complex your job is, you may have 10 outcomes, 10 activities, or you may have 1,000 activities. You don't want 10 outcomes. It's bad. Cut that out. But for some people, like you look at, Matthew for WealthCap, the new controller. There's not that many. I mean, he's counting money and he's making sure we don't go broke. But then you look at Street Matter and there's 1,000 activities. So you have to be really careful that you can support all of these things. Make sense?
Yeah.
With me so far?
Yes.
If you look at your daily map, if you look at your time logs, which a time log is when you set a reminder on your phone and every 30 minutes you go back through and you write down what you did. Has anybody ever done this?
Yes.
It's terrifying. Like, it's literally terrifying. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm not doing anything with my life at all. If you do this, what you'll notice is that you're not being disciplined with the categories. Okay, so let's go through an example for you, Stream Matter. Outcome. What's your outcome for the month?
20 closed properties,
20 closed properties.
2.6 mil under volume.
Is there any hedging in that?
In the volume, yes.
20 properties per month. What's our target for the month?
You mean target?
Target. How many houses do we want?
20 is a bottom line.
I would throw a hedge in that, just so you know. Who else on the team is a producer? What's the goal for what's your target for the month?
2,000 in television advertising.
So I would put a buffer in that, and I would put on the list, I would put 2,200 or 2,300. Because if your mind is constantly conditioning yourself to do more, then you're, at worst case, you're going to end on the goal. How many times have Chris talked about hedging? Backing up from, it's the only word he knows at this point is hedge. It's backing up from the line, backing up from the line. So not good, Street Matter. That was test you failed, but it's okay. You're gonna pass the next one. All right, so let's say 25. This is one of my oldest friends, by the way, just so you guys know. So there's history here. I am kind of beating up on him, but 25 houses, maybe that's the outcome. What other outcomes do you have?
2.6 million volume.
There you go. So if you're a producer, you're going to have multiple outcomes, and those outcomes should support one another. They should act as constraints for one another. So Russell, let's go back to you. 2,000 intelligent advertisers. Are there any constraints on that?
$65 CPA bill.
Boom, there's a constraint. That's another outcome. Make sense? It's not enough to make $20 million a year. We want to make $20 million a year with the 50% profit margin, because if we have no profit margin, it makes the first outcome irrelevant. Cool? You're starting to understand why people don't do this, because it's actually hard. It's really hard. So, Streets has 25 properties. He has $2.6 million. You can see he has it memorized. But unless he's reading this every single day somewhere, it's probably not going to stick. He's going to have to actually configure his brain and his bandwidth to go remember it. And then underneath that outcome, we have categories. What are the categories of work that you could be doing on a daily basis or a weekly basis to hit that outcome?
Reviewing offers, or making offers, reviewing offers, looking at off-market properties.
These are activities. You guys notice? So when asked to explain a category, what you're naturally going to do is explain the activity. If you're a lawn company, what are the categories of work? Mowing the grass, fertilizing the grass, weed eating. No, those are activities. If your brain doesn't understand the difference, you won't be able to control the organization of putting together a daily map. So we got to get bigger than that. Categorically, let's say you have new deals, you have negotiating deals. Admin sucks, but somebody's got to do it. I mean, you got to count the offers you're making, right? We can't do anything without attribution, so admin's in there. What else? New deals, negotiating deals, admin.
Follow up on old deals.
Yep.
Huh?
Follow up on old deals.
Follow up on old deals. So let's write this down. Follow up. What else?
Connections, relationships.
New relationships.
Closings.
Actual closings. Hey, there's a big one.
Use technology.
What renovations in there?
Nope, not for streets. What about meetings?
Yep, definitely.
So I'm looking through your day right now. You got your morning formula, personal development, that's another one. So personal. Meeting notes. Call with an Alabama, reviewed 5 opportunities. Discussed off-market plans. Who was that with?
Which day are you looking at?
6-9.
Yesterday, that was with Donna, our Alabama contact.
Gotcha. So 9:30 to 10-ish. Pay scale boots on grounds.
That was also with Donna.
Okay. So this looks actually pretty good unless we go through and we categorize things. If we can categorize things, what we might see is a lot of waste.
Yeah.
Questions so far? We want to keep going. All right. So out of these categories, here's what we have to do next. The most unfair thing you can do is treating everything fairly. It's treating everything the same. So let's prioritize and weigh these based on what's going to actually get you to the goal. What's the most important category on here?
Closings.
Is it?
Maybe negotiating.
I mean, is closings the most important? Because how do you close if you don't have new deals?
Pipeline.
Streets, this is for you, bro.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, I would agree. Have to have new deals so you can close.
All right, let's just pick 3. This is an important one. What else? If you don't have admin, you can't really tell what's going on. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of admin.
Yep, new deals, admin, and closings. I'd say the big three.
Okay. Can you outsource closings?
They are outsourcing, they're done by the title companies.
Okay. So is it a category that you have to pay attention to?
Making sure things go on time, making sure deadlines are being met.
So should we rewrite closings to say management?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think closings is a byproduct of doing the other things. It will absolutely force its hand. It'll make it happen. So from a bandwidth perspective, it will not be required.
Closings is for you a little bit like inputting credit cards for salespeople. It is a category, but it's kind of just going to happen regardless
Okay.
if they have the deals.
That's in negotiations.
Negotiations? You sure?
Yeah, it would probably be first. Negotiations that lead to new deals, which lead to admin work.
New deals means new opportunities. So I think new deals is first.
Okay. Yep.
Negotiations? You guys all agree with this? Devin, you agree with this?
Yeah. The personal development part though is like,
It's not important.
it's
Who
kind
cares
of,
if you're growing?
it's the most important.
Definitely personal development.
Here's the challenge, right? This is why it's hard. You don't have time. Here's the thing. 2 to 3 outcomes a month, 1 to 2 categories a day. This is the hardest you will ever do in your life because you have to be able to prioritize almost instantly. And you have to be able to put your days together. So while personal development is definitely an important category, it's not necessarily going to take you to the goal that you have to hit to stay here, to earn. But it is something that you have to do. So to me, this is like eating. Let's just go ahead and put eating on here. You're going to have to eat, but you may not need to build your calendar around it.
Sure.
Agree?
Yeah.
So this leads into, are there categories that are so important that you can make them habitual?
Yes.
Yep. So you should do that. All right. So new deals, negotiations, administrative.
Follow-ups.
You only get 3. You only get 3. This, they can all be done, but you have to earn the right to do these by nailing these. What does that mean?
I have a question, like when you're selecting the most important, should they be the ones that like chronologically kind of have to come first for the rest to follow? Because it seems like for those ones, like the rest of them, like you said, closings just kind of follow based off what he does.
It's not necessarily chronological, it is more based on weight. If you have these things that have to happen, and then on top, you have these things. If these things don't happen, these things all crumble out. So it's not necessarily a chronological thing, it's more of a, like if you don't do those things, you don't have a job because there's nothing to do.
Right. Okay.
It was back in the day when Lance was doing all acquisitions, he was doing all banking. But if you didn't hit acquisitions, then the banking relationships were a waste because there was nowhere to use the bank for. So one had to be done before the other because of importance. Make sense?
Yes.
So go back through your time log real fast and attach these categories to yesterday's time log. Just off, but what you want to make sure is you don't have this is what's wrong with your daily map. This is what's wrong with Anthony Aramini. Geez, this is why I've tried to fix this with him 1,000 times. You don't have these weird blocks in here that's like family right in the middle because you're going out of context into context. Out of context, it'll ruin your day. So I don't think it's wise to go to the gym, do your morning formula, go home, see James, then have to go back to work, then go home for lunch, see James, because you do have different identities. And the dad has to be different than the executive.
Right.
You don't want to father the way that you train the team here.
Right.
And you don't want to run the company the way that you father.
Yeah.
So the more you can stop that, you have mesh in between your stuff.
Yeah.
The more you can deal with that, it's going to help you block off not just the time, but remember we're talking about the energy.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
And admin.
All right, so do something real fast, and I'm going to get the group to discuss. Count the actual time spent in just these categories. Don't pad your numbers, I will catch you. What are your thoughts on his day?
Too much switching between different kinds of, like, the activities for the different categories.
How many times did he switch? Anybody count?
A lot.
Just guess.
8.
8 times? How many hours is 8?
Basically, it's gonna be
It's 2 days.
8 times 30 minutes. It's 240 minutes. 4 hours, we got a third grade version of Street Matter. No offense. It's just the way that the brain works. All right, so too much switching. I'm just gonna write this down. What else? Yes, 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 yes. What else? What else did we notice? We're about to notice something else as soon as he gets us the math. How much time was in his top 3 categories?
Yeah, there's a lot of admin and like only a little bit of new opportunity, no negotiations that I noticed.
A lot of reactive.
What would you think if you paid someone to come put up a garden in the backyard, and they showed up and they sat in their car and they read while you were paying them to do it?
Short will read.
This is why I'm not a fan of salespeople showing up and counting reading as production, because it's not actually producing. You can read on the weekends, you can read in the morning, you can read at night.
I'm not a fan of the word busy. It took me about it,
Yep.
that everybody's busy.
What else did you guys notice from his day, though? This is a producer. This is a producer who realistically should be outproducing every other person in every company that we have. $2.6 million in acquisitions. That's more than marketing does for TF. That's more than sales does for TF, right? That's more than we do for Sales Mentor. This is the top producer that should be in all of our firms. And how much time did he spend producing? This is the only way. The only way is to actually, when you do this time log, the only way is for you to really look at it and to feel like, oh my goodness, I've been messing everything up. I had to go through it, still have to go through it. So how much time did you spend in the top 3?
4 hours.
4 hours. Walk us through that math.
Uh,
Out of your entire day, 2 hours out of 8, what's the percentage on that? 25%. So 25% on the very top thing that flows through everything else. What would you change moving forward?
New deals and opportunities needs to be at least 50% of my day.
Here's what I would do, Streets. Self-dev, admin, 30-minute block at the beginning of the day. That's all you need, bro. That's all you need. If you know you have to look at technology, then schedule that for 7:30 the next day so it doesn't ruin all of your production power for the current day. Okay? We're going to have a meeting in here because you can't avoid it. Meetings suck, but they're necessary. And look, 2 hours uninterrupted. If you do 1 hour here and 1 hour there, that's 2 total hours, which will combine you for a total of 1 hour of production. Why? Context switching. But if you can get here, you have an hour and a half, full 90 minutes. Okay? Meetings, you're going to have to eat. How many of you take a full lunch? I always take a full lunch. Why?
Recharge the batteries.
Yep, and I've got self-development that's snuck into my lunch. I have all of these things that are snuck into that 1 hour block. I will go to Chipotle and I'll sit in my car and I will read. I get out and I try to stay out for 45 minutes to an hour.
I heard you say once, I don't know where you got it, that biology and vision are at war.
Biology and mindset are at war. Biology will always win. Yeah. So get out of the office, get out of your house, go get something, listen to a book, read your morning formula if you need to, whatever you need to do. So you've got lunch here. And bro, you might have some more admin that you have to do when you get back. Because knowing WealthCap, knowing TF, a bunch of stuff's gonna happen up here that you, guess what? You didn't catch because you were producing.
Yep.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Devin set a house on fire and you gotta go fix it, and she slacked you about it at 8:30, but you were producing. And so now you're gonna catch that where?
1 o'clock.
Praise God. For 30 minutes. And then, what do we have? Oh my goodness. We have another 2 hour block. Can you imagine if you actually produce for 4 hours a day? By the way, here's the other thing that we're trying to teach streets right now that's good for you guys to learn everywhere else on the team. If you have trained yourself your entire life, or if you've been around not abusive, but difficult situations where you're constantly having to defend yourself, you have some work to do. Because the only way for you to grow is for you to make things look worse than they are. Did you guys hear him say 4 hours production? He's not producing for 4 hours. But he wants to make sure that we know he's not just lazy. He wants to make sure that we know he's not stupid. He wants to make sure that we know he's not just like mowing the grass while counting it as work. But we all know that. That's the beauty of like our sales culture. You guys get into sales meetings because the ruthlessness of that culture makes you accurate. That's what it's all about. If we can't honestly look at ourselves and look at our calendars and say, I'm dropping the ball here, we'll never grow. And one of my biggest things with Street Matter that I want to get to him, and I'm like, we're working together on this. It's not all his fault. He's got to be able to be like, I just totally dropped the ball. And that's hard for him to do, not because he doesn't admit it, but because coming out of environments that are unhealthy, your tendency is to defend yourself. Like, you've been there too. Mm-hmm. One day I walk in and I'm like, don't smile at Devin, right? And she thinks I'm about to fire her. It's like, it's old. So we got to be honest. Yeah. You're not producing enough. Your calendar's a wreck. Categorically, you're spending too much time on things that aren't making us money. Okay? So, outcome, what's your outcome, Streets?
25 closed.
25 closed per month. Attaboy. What are the categories you have to focus on?
New deals, negotiations, and admin.
There you go. And preferably 1 to 2 per day.
Yep.
So it's okay if you have a production day that's Tuesday and you're just gonna find new deals all day. It's okay, all day, like all day. That's all. Don't talk to me. Don't bother me with your fires. Talk to Casey. I'm getting new deals all day. 30 minutes of admin in the morning, all day. Not everyone has the freedom to do that. Heather can't just do that.
Right.
She could try. But you have the authority to do that. So do it.
Yeah.
Right? In activities. Okay?
Yep.
How many categories per day?
1 or 2.
So check yourself if you've got different activity, because what's happening is you're switching contexts and you're probably not being disciplined with your categories.
Yep.
This is easy once you get the hang of it.